that's it. We are live on the internet. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. And I like your background. I was just noticing that too. I was trying to read what it said, but I'm getting old.
I didn't even know what it says. We just wanted to hide the bed. We were trying to get good lighting.
Yeah. That's a good call. I should do something like that. I've got like a mess on my pool table behind me. That's what I see. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Every time I watch you, I always wonder what is on your pool table.
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I think right now it's like mail and a blanket, and like a towel. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever use it for pool?
No, I do not. I sleep on it sometimes because I don't like going to bed, but that's about it.
Sleep on it?
I occasionally sleep on it. Yeah, that's the biggest use of the pool table. Yeah, and it holds my mail, and apparently like a blanket and a couple towels right now. So that's what's happening with the pool table.
That's great.
It is, but one day someone will play pool on it. It'll be fantastic. It could happen. Not anytime soon, but it'll happen one day. And then I've got the upside down Christmas tree still back there too, which that's a whole separate issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed there was a Christmas tree, and I wondered if you just keep it up year round.
At this point, I think I am. That wasn't the plan, but it's there. Yeah, it's upside down, and it's being held up by Superman at the bottom. You can't see from here, but yeah, exactly. So I was just saying to you guys that this is the first time we've had two people on at the same time, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So you're making history. So
yeah, that's awesome.
And we found out that you have to be very close to each other, which is a new revelation.
Closer than we've ever been.
So hopefully you showered in your.
Yes.
Perfect.
We both have OCD, so we shower often.
Yeah, at least once a week, you know.
Right? Yeah.
So tell me about, and either one, whichever guys you want. I'll direct questions to both of you, and whoever wants to answer will do better. Tell me about Judah Brown Project and how you guys got started and what you do.
Okay. You want to start? Okay. So in early 2016, I was during prayer time, my boss told me about Judah's accident. And so during that time, I didn't know the statistics of drowning. So God spoke to me and said, you need to do something. Well, with that something, my goal was to get kids 3 and under, because Judah was 3, to teach them how to swim. So to get an instructor, and with the instructor, have a group of children just learn how to swim. So what I wanted to do was get the parents involved. And by getting the parents involved, I wanted to get them to raise funding. And so one way I was going to give to the Browns was to have the parents donate the money to the instructor, and the instructor donate the money to the Browns. Well, during that time, Judah had passed. So I didn't know the statistics of drowning. So what I quickly did was decided that I was going to raise this money and give it to the Browns as part of the funeral costs for Judah. Mm-hmm. And during that time, somebody approached me and said, I have a business and I will match dollar for dollar everything that comes in. So what happened was we were trying to look for a location for a pool. And it's hard because when you have a pool, you have so many liabilities. So it wasn't easy just to get the kids there and then have the parents sign waivers and things like that. It sounds nice, but on paper, it's much harder.
Like a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So during that time, Jamboree Play and Music donated. They actually matched dollar for dollar everything that came in, and they donated above that. So during all of that, there was somebody from Singapore. Her name is Michelle, and she heard what we wanted to do with the money, and she sent funding from Singapore for us to become a 501c3 organization.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I was in the hospital with Judah, and this was when we knew that he wasn't gonna make it. And I was crying and upset at his bedside. And, thinking, why wasn't I told any of the statistics before now? Why wasn't I told how easy this can happen? And I thought about my pediatrician, and I thought about, I never heard anything from my pediatrician or from his preschool or anyone who worked with him about, how to keep him safer around the water. And I was getting really angry, and I'm like, why aren't they giving this information? We give information about car accidents. We give information about poisoning, but we don't give information about water safety. And so she had contacted me about the project, and I told her about my concerns, and said, we need to do something. We need to get into these pediatricians' offices, and we need to get this information in there so that they can give it to their families. And that's really where the main thrust of the project started, I think. So.
And I think you guys might be focusing on what arguably could be considered the most important niche right now in water safety. I don't know if you saw the results of Carrie Morrison's survey, but she did a survey where she asked parents, if they've been instructed about water safety from their doctor, and only like 15% had. It was a really, really low number, almost criminally low number. And I knew it was low. I didn't realize it was that low. And even more surprising, the majority of her respondents, I believe, are in Florida, where water safety is a constant conversation. And if it's 15% here, that means it's even worse in other areas of the country.
Exactly.
Which you guys are in Texas.
You know why the AAP doesn't recommend swim lessons for under age 5?
Do I know why? Well, I think now it's below age 1. But
it's in your area, correct?
I think it's nationwide. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But since we've been doing this since 1987, it was age 5, and they used to say it was for ear infections.
Mm-hmm.
They were worried about kids getting ear infections. And then later on, they said it was because kids couldn't learn how to swim before age 5. And now their official position is that they show some efficacy at age 1. They don't recommend at 6 months. And it literally says in their guidebook that, infants rolling over and floating makes for compelling videos on the internet, but there is no statistical data that it improves, any chance of saving a kid, which blows my mind. Like, they literally refer to the videos on the internet that we've all seen, and then but don't believe those. We have no data.
When you watch it firsthand, like we have been,
it's impossible.
It's amazing.
It's amazing what these kids can do.
At
Absolutely.
such a young age, and how quick they learn it. The rollover to float to back. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, the organizations that teach it have thousands of documented cases of people who have reached out to them and said, our child fell in the water and rolled over and floated, and it's good to go now.
That's kind of our battle. That's our grassroots. I feel like we need to take it from the grassroots and just go to knock on these pediatricians' doors and just keep knocking until we get more and more pediatricians involved. And we've got 44 pediatricians' offices that carry our pamphlets right now
throughout
That's
the
really
U.S.
cool.
Yeah.
So we've got 85 offices, not just pediatricians, but other, we call them points of first contact. People who, have available access to families with children, with young children. So we have 85 of those, and then 44 of those are pediatricians. I
like that you guys have focused on that. I know it's compelling in the beginning to just want to do everything all at once. And, I think the people that do the best are the people that pick a lane and, pick something that reaches out to them and focus on it.
Right.
Yeah, because there's so much in drowning prevention. It's such a big, there's so many aspects to it, right? So focusing on one thing sometimes is best. Then you just have a goal, and our goal is to save little lives.
Did you guys kind of waver on what you wanted to focus on before you landed on that, or did you know right away?
Honestly, it was such a God thing.
Yeah.
Such a God thing that first led me to raising awareness, you know, and once Christy spoke about pediatricians not knowing, you know, the importance of water safety and sharing this information with families, we really just geared in on pediatricians itself.
Yeah, how can we, I mean, I kind of knew from the beginning, this is what needs to happen. This is what we need to focus on because, you know, the more information is out there, parents can't know what to do if people aren't, you know, helping them understand what the risks are and what they can do to make those risks lower. And so I felt like the best way to do that would be to get into these, as I call them, points of first contact, and get them to talk to these people about this, so that, you know, the families at least have that information. You know, what they do with it, we found, you know, varies on the parent. Some parents are ready to hear it and some parents aren't, but at least they have that in their minds.
So what else do you designate as a person of first contact?
So we have our pamphlets in pediatric dentist offices. We have them in preschools, elementary schools. What else?
Oh gosh, fire stations. We have them and all kinds of businesses throughout Texas. Kelsey Siebel is actually one of our biggest carriers right now. We have all 14 locations in the state of Texas.
I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
It's a hospital system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we also have them in like birthing centers and in places like that, maternity.
And we're about to get into a pregnancy center as well.
Oh,
so
wow.
Before they even have, you know, the child, our goal is to educate parents, especially mamas, before they even have the baby, about the importance of water, because our babies are being washed before they even go home. So they're in water, you know, before they even hit the house. And so it's so important that we teach water safety to moms.
They, you know, we can't even leave the hospital as moms with our babies without having a car seat properly strapped in the car.
I say that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So why are we leaving the hospital without any information about how to keep them safe around the water?
Yeah, absolutely.
Given that in the 1 to 4 year old age group, you know, drowning is the #1 cause of accidental death. And that's 14 times higher than a car accident. Why are we doing that? Why are we focusing on cars, you know?
Yeah, and no one's making sure that the pool you have in your backyard is secure in any way. You know, your car is secure, right? But no one's checking to make sure you have a fence or alarms or, you know, something to make sure your pool is safer. You know, it's weird thinking, you know.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think, you know, like cars and things like that get so much attention and regulation, but pools don't?
Well, what we've been told is there's so many topics of discussion that healthcare providers need to discuss that when something new comes out, one gets pushed under. So unfortunately, swimming lessons or talking about water safety in general, I think has just gotten pushed down.
But I mean, we know drowning is #1. It's been #1 for, you know, since I was 16 and I've been doing this. And, you know, car seats have been a thing in cars since I was a baby. So it just seems strange that, you know, the car companies or car seats have, you know, managed to latch on and become, you know, a part of the culture. But drowning, even though it's far more prevalent, 14 times, like you said, doesn't get the same traction.
I think too, Eric, that statistics, people have to have these statistics, right? So swim lessons show that a child above the age of 5 is 88% less likely to drown if they have, you know, lessons. So I think statistics always have a kind of a back for lessons.
I mean, from our experience talking to pediatricians and talking to these doctors, a lot of them don't even know these statistics. So I think a lot of it is just lack of awareness, lack of knowledge. it's just not being put out there enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see it in the news, but then everyone thinks, oh, how tragic, and then
Mm-hmm.
it just goes away. They don't really understand. I know that every time we talk to someone and we give them their statistics, it's like their eyes, it's like a deer caught in headlights. They realize, oh, I didn't know that before, and then they take it more seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important to get this information into as many offices as we can, because they just don't know. Even the doctors don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As far as why it's caught on, I think it's there's been a large push from a lot of people about the car accidents, and there just hasn't been that same level of push. I mean, I know there's a lot of us organizations out here doing this and pushing for this, but I think it just hasn't quite reached that level yet that car accidents has, and I think it's time it does.
Have you guys, and it's terrible that it takes this in order for us to gain momentum, but it seems to be a trend. Have you seen an uptick since the Miller story has gotten out?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think that that's where the media has really caught on to it, and I think that that's an important step that onto this and gets the information out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, in my time doing this, a few, high profile drowning cases. But this is, I think, the first one in the social media era. And I'm hoping that, because we, have Facebook now, and, the Miller family in particular seems really keen on, doing outreach. I know that they've been talking to a lot of people that I know to make sure that they get their messaging correct and that they have the right information. And, they seem really intent on, trying to make bridge awareness. Hopefully it'll have a bigger impact. I remember, Jack Nicholson's, the golfer, his grandchild drowned a long time ago here locally. And obviously, Secretary of State Baker lost a grandchild, almost 20 years ago now. And that resulted in the Virginia Graham-Baker Act, which is awesome. So yeah, it seems like we kind of need these, high profile cases to push things forward, but I'm hoping this one will, because of the time it's happened, and Facebook and Instagram, and, the way the news has gravitated to it, that we'll see, some really, not only attention, but maybe for the first time, actual scalable dollars heading towards it, which I'm curious to see what that'll do,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, have you seen the stuff from the Pool Safely campaign?
Some.
Yeah. I think that's the last time we've seen, an organization with real resources and real money, because it was the government. And the Virginia Graham-Baker Act mandated that a certain amount of dollars be put towards water safety. And those ads are amazing. If you go look at their videos, they're really, really good. They're probably some of the best pool safety material out there. And for you guys, by the way, all their brochures, their pamphlets, their literature, all that stuff is free. They'll send it to you. You just have to ask for it. And they'll even put your logo on it, by the way. They'll brand it for you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all completely free. They'll mail it to you. I have a warehouse full of that stuff that I give out. I try to
you, especially from the beginning when we first started out. We do use Pool Safely water watcher tags.
Yeah, right. They're great. They do a great job. They have great stuff. And I know that the last couple of years they've kind of gotten pushed down the list. They don't get funded as much as they used to.
Yes. They've had to limit their water watcher tags.
Yeah.
See them by the thousands, because we do go through them that quickly. But now it's 200.
Yeah, the new government isn't as keen on water safety apparently, but it is what it is. But hopefully, maybe, I don't know, new election, whatever, things will change. But right now they've kind of had to scale back what they're doing. So how do you reach out to pediatricians? I mean, do you just literally just call them? Do you show up at their office? Do you protest outside? Like,
we just go in.
It's several different ways. We go in. We just talk to them, kind of cold call kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have ambassadors all around the country who who, you know, go and do the same thing. They have a heart for it. They have a lot of them are parents of children who have passed from drowning. And they just go in and they say, hey, did you know that these are the statistics of drowning? And a lot of it, you know, it's interesting how quickly the pediatricians will respond when they hear the statistics. We really haven't had any trouble getting into their offices and talking to them about it, because they really do. I mean, that's their heart. That's their job, is to keep kids safe. But yeah, I mean, so it's really not been too difficult to do it. And then a lot of it too has been social media, Facebook and Instagram. We get a lot of people calling us from there and saying, hey, I would love to have this in our office. A lot of nurse practitioners are calling us and advocating for us in their clinics. So
any OBGYNs?
Yes.
Yes.
We've had a great outpour since the Today's Parents article from Christi.
Yeah.
We've had people from all over the U.S. Like she was saying, nurse practitioners and pediatricians that have their own offices. We even had a photographer that takes photos of infants. She wants to use the pamphlets and take photos in ways that are a little bit different than just the norm photo of an infant. So she wants to utilize our water safety pamphlets with it. We had a pharmaceutical, somebody who goes throughout pediatricians and wants to display our water safety pamphlets to each pediatrician she walks into. She's over 500 pediatricians now. And so we've had that opportunity. So it's exciting. It's exciting.
I think once, you know, our first year, we really concentrated on knocking down doors and you know, trying to get them interested. And then after that, they just sort of took over, and they've started to call us and say, hey, we've heard about your pamphlets. We'd really like to have them, or the trainings that we do as well. So, yeah.
What do the trainings entail?
So we go into schools, preschools and elementary schools, babysitters groups, anyone who has is a caregiver of a child, of a young child, and we just talk about. We do a training about the statistics of drowning, how drowning happens, how you can make kids safer around the water, the layers of protection, and that's basically it. Yeah, and then with the kids, we play some games focused on water safety. And it was really cool. The other day we were at an event and we had 5 or 6 kids come up and they were like, oh, you came to our school.
Everybody knew us. It was so cool. It was so heartwarming because, you know, in this type of work, you don't really see the effects from it, you know, unless somebody really contacts you or outreaches to you. But the kids, like, they knew us from like all different places. Like one said we went to their school, another place said that it was at their daycare. I mean, it was just all different resources, and that was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Quizzing them, and they remembered the water safety techniques that we taught them. So, you know, it's just good to see and hear that they're listening and that it's being effective.
Yeah,
so.
And guess what? They were all boys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were all boys. It was so cool. And another thing too is like we noticed that like when kids come to us, when they approach us, the parents are more willing to listen, because when you teach water safety, the parents sometimes they take it as we're trying to teach them how to be a parent or parent their child, and that's not the case. The case is that we're trying to keep their children safer around the water, you know.
But I think that Judah's story. Judah's story really impacts, I think, because, you know, we've noticed that we approach them and just start saying, hey, can we give you this water safety information? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. You know, probably throw it in the trash. But if we approach them and say, you know, I want to tell you my story and I want to help keep your child safe because my child, you know, passed away from this. And that it's like a total different reaction. They're like, oh, you know, and it just like clicks in their head. Oh, if it can happen to her, it can happen to me.
Yeah. And when she's at events and stuff and they listen to her, it's totally different. Totally different. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. And then you get a totally different reaction. And then sometimes the mamas start crying, you know.
But it helps them to be able to put it into their own world and to be able to say, okay, you know what, I need to take this seriously.
Right, because it's easy to say, well, that happens to maybe the bad parents, right? But obviously, talking to you and seeing you, it's pretty clear that's not the case, right? Obviously, you're vigilant and you're intelligent and well spoken, and it's pretty clear you're not a crappy parent. So speaking to you, I think anybody would get that impression. So the idea that if it could happen to you, then then who else couldn't do? Have you guys spoken to Richard Specht? He was a science teacher, I think, and he does classroom presentations, and he does a lot of really cool stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
And,
we honor his child.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have considered swapping ideas with him for presentations, because I know he does a lot of he has like a little science experiment he does where I'm going to get it wrong, but essentially he combines things of water, and it shows how you spread the message of water safety. It's cool. But
we do science. We do one.
Yeah.
With names. Mm-hmm.
How does it work?
We do one with oranges. So we have an orange that is peeled and we have an orange that is not peeled. And we ask the kids which one's going to sink and which one's going to float.
Okay.
And then we let them put the oranges in and see which one sinks and which one floats. And it's the one that is peeled sinks and the one that is not peeled floats. And we talk about, it's when we're talking about open water and always wearing your life jacket on open water, and how if you have your life jacket on, you're going to float. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you could sink. And we have 3 different life vests that we provide. So we'll put a big life vest on a small child and talk to them about, does this fit properly? And then if it, teaching them that wearing a life vest it's important to wear the proper life vest. And the kids love that one, mm-hmm. because we'll put the toddler life vest on a really large child, nice. And then we'll put the big life vest on a really tiny child, and so the kids are laughing and stuff. So we got them engaged,
right.
And talk to them about what does it look like when it actually fits. And so
I like the orange thing too, because it almost looks like a life vest,
Yes.
Yeah. It matches.
Yeah.
Have you guys connected at all with the folks over at Families United to prevent drowning? Do you know about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're good folks. Have you been to an NDPA conference yet?
Yes. We have. Uh-huh. Our first one was last year.
Yeah. I missed it. That's the first one I've been to. In ages. I was on the board and then vice president, but over in Tampa.
Yes. Yeah. It was really, really good. We learned a lot and got a lot of information that's helped us along the way, and met a lot of really great people who are really dedicated to water safety. So it's really, really good.
Yeah, I think it's important because it's, when you're kind of working in your own silo and you're doing your own thing, you don't realize that you might be reinventing the wheel of something that's been done 77 times before, So exactly. The NDPA is a great place to kind of meet people and kind of see not only what other people are doing, but what they're not doing. So you can maybe find your spot,
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think it was Sherry, it could be wrong though, who said at the NDPA conferences where she found, where she wanted to, what she wanted to do, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's where we met Sherry.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And we've partnered with her on a couple of things now, so it's been really good. Because she's not too far away from us, so we've been able to partner with her and promote her and what she's doing, and really exciting watching her organization grow like it is.
She has some pretty awesome things going.
Yeah, she's also chosen a really cool niche. I like the idea of equipping paramedics and firefighters and police officers and people. I'm getting a couple of her systems for my house, because why wouldn't you have that?
Right. Exactly.
It's a cool idea, and I think she's onto something. And I'd never before talking to her, I don't think I had never heard that before. No one has ever recommended to me to have an oxygen tank essentially here at the house. Just like you would a fire extinguisher. And it amazed me is as deep in this for as long as I've done it, that no one's ever suggested that before. So I was I thought that was really cool that she's kind of doing something unique,
Yeah, and how she's focusing on what happens if it does happen.
Right.
You know, what to do if it does happen. Where a lot of us are focusing on the prevention side of things, but you forget that we've also got to focus on how do we prevent the traumatic brain injury? How do we prevent the deaths that are happening if it does happen? Because we all know that we can only be safer around the water. We can't be totally safe around the water. So I love that she's chosen to focus on that side of things. I think it's going to be a huge help.
100%. So why do you think drowning is such a big problem in Texas in particular? I mean, lots of states have pools, lots of states have water, lots of states are hot. But for some reason, Texas in particular seems to have a problem.
We're so big.
Yeah.
We're so big. And like you said, we're on the water. I don't know if you heard this, but this is the first year that our county is not leading drownings.
Oh, wow.
In Texas since 2013.
Wow.
And we're praying that the Judah Brown Project itself is making a difference. It's making an impact. We last year we had 107, and this year alone we have 67. But in Harris County alone, we've had 5 drownings, and 2 of them are under the age of 4. And then last year we had about 18.
That's really cool. And I imagine it has to be because of you, right? It'd be, it'd be silly to think it wasn't,
Yeah.
We're praying that it's making some kind of impact. Yeah. But yeah, I think the fact that like pretty much every, most people in Texas has a pool or has access to a pool. And then like she said, the size of Texas, just the sheer numbers, we have a lot of people here.
Yeah.
And
we also don't have the laws of fencing around.
No, we don't. It's a totally optional here. And
I was going to say, I think you're one of the few states in the Sunshine Belt, we'll call it, that doesn't have any pool safety regulation.
Yes, it's way too relaxed on regulations.
Yeah, and I think probably part of the culture as well. There's a, I'll just watch my kid kind of thing. Yeah. And as we know, almost 70% of people of parents were responsible for supervising the child when the child drowned, and most were thought to be inside the house, and a good chunk of those were thought to be sleeping in their bedrooms. And I always say that the people who say that they'll just watch their kid and they watch them all the time, like, no, I don't need a fence, or I always watch my kid. Those are the ones that scare the crap out of me. The mom who says like, no, I can't keep up, that kid's too fast. I need something. That's a realistic mom right there. She knows what the deal is. I always watch my mom people are the scary ones.
Yes, and I get that. We get that a lot. Yeah. Oh, I've always watched my kid. I don't have to worry about that. And I'm like, I always watch my kids too, and it still happens to me.
Right.
You're not perfect, and you can't have your attention on them 100% of the time. You just can't. You're human.
Or I don't have a pool in my backyard. I don't need to worry about water safety. That we get so many different reasons why they watch their children, around water. And puddle jumpers are such an epidemic,
Yeah, we don't recommend puddle jumpers because of, Judah was in a puddle jumper, and he, what I didn't realize is that it was giving him a false sense of security. It was teaching him that he could swim when he really couldn't. So that when the whole reason he went into the water is because he thought he could swim. He was trying to get to his siblings. And he didn't realize that he needed the puddle jumper to do that, that he's not able to swim yet. And so I tell moms that. I said, it's not that the device itself is a bad thing, but that it teaches your child the wrong thing. And it also puts them in a vertical position in the water, which is the wrong position to be in for the child to be able to breathe. That's the position of drowning, is a vertical position in the water. So, yeah.
So had Judah been swimming earlier that day?
He had, yeah. He was, we were actually at the pool, at the time that it happened, and I had taken him out of the pool because he had come out, he was tired and cold, and so he went to his daddy, and his daddy said, go see your mama. And so he came over to me, and I took the puddle jumper off of him because I couldn't get the towel over him with it on. So, and I sat him next to me, and we were watching the kids in the pool. The other kids were on the other side of the pool. And I did a head count, looked around, and Judah wasn't there. And so we quickly got up and looked for him, and that's when we found him in the pool. So.
And how long do you think was he under?
A few minutes, maybe, because it was about a minute between when I sat him down and when I looked for him again, and then it took a minute or two to find him.
Was it at a public pool?
It was at an apartment pool. We were at our friend's pool. Yeah.
And it wasn't lifeguarded?
Yeah.
And I think the first thing people think about when something like this happens is like you said, why don't people know about it? And I think it starts with pediatricians, like you said, those first points of contact, the pediatric dentists, and the people in the hospital, the OBGYNs. I had a dental hygienist on a few weeks ago, and she was saying that the recommendation for when you first go to the dentist now is your first tooth, right? The first, the baby has the first tooth, you should go to the dentist, right? And the first time a kid's in water is in the hospital, is that first bath. And I thought, well, it should be the same thing, right? The first time the kid touches water, there should be some instruction on water safety, And
what would be really cool, Eric, is like if while the babies are getting a bath,
mm-hmm.
the nurse is sitting there talking to them about the layers of protection for water safety. Maybe
100%.
give a pamphlet, because at that moment, new moms or a mom that's already been a mom before, they'll listen at that time. It's just such a crucial moment,
They want to keep their babies completely safe.
Yeah.
And so they're really focused on that at that time. So it's a really good time to get the information to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the things we want to do is get into maternity wards and be
Mm-hmm.
able to get our pamphlets in there.
Teach it like breastfeeding,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or the car seat thing, like we said. There's, that's built into the culture, right? You would be the worst mom ever if you stuck your, infant in the back seat of a car and drove home without a car seat, right? You get pulled over, you'd be arrested.
Right.
Your kid would get taken away for child abuse. But you can take the same kid, home in the car seat to a house with a pool, with no fence, with no lessons, with no training, with the back door wide open, and no one thinks twice about it.
There's an analogy. A pool is so similar to like a burning building. So you have two different scenarios, right? And you're calling everybody to the burning building. And as you're calling the people to the burning building, you're telling them to come to the fire, right? The pool is the same thing. So it's just different because it's not fire, but we treat it just like fire.
But we tell people, we tell people to stay away from the burning building, but we don't tell people, or to be safe, we don't tell people, to stay away from the water until you can respect it, until you can, get the skills that you need for it.
Mm-hmm.
To be careful around it. We tell them, hey, come on in. This is a fun place to be, without actually talking to them about the risks of the water and to respect the water before you go and have fun in it.
Bonnie Miller's wife, Morgan, put it a way I hadn't heard before in her interview. She said now when she looks at the pool, she sees, it's a lion, it's a kidnapper, it's a, it's a dangerous, dark thing that's in her backyard. And, that's a great way to think about it. You know, it's a kidnapper. It's something that steals children. And if you think of it like that it's, you know, a hungry lion in your backyard waiting to reach out and get you, that is a much more realistic depiction actually of what's going on than, you know, your backyard oasis paradise. And like I said, I think, you know, everything you guys are doing and, you know, the work that's happening, you know, around the country and the other organizations, I'm hoping the biggest change we're having is a change in the culture. You know, I think it's, you know, between, you know, the Millers and all the nonprofits and the DPA and, you know, things like this podcast, you know, we're kind of hammering the message home over and over again. And it's, you know, it's permeating throughout the culture that people are starting to respect the pool, like you said, like a burning building or like firearm safety, right? You wouldn't, you know, pick up a gun if you didn't know how to use it. You know, you shouldn't get in a pool if you don't know how to swim in it. You know, that there's these kind of rules of engagement. And I think that's, hopefully we're making some kind of difference. And like you said, you know, the numbers in your area have gone down. I've heard that in other areas where we have nonprofits. I know the numbers here haven't been as great, you know, so, you know, hopefully we start to see some kind of national trend.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah,
we went to watch lessons not too long ago, and there was a parent there that said that they got their daughter in lessons because of the Judah Brown Project.
Oh,
and that was exciting to hear. You know,
that's cool.
It's just exciting to hear that kind of feedback because we just don't always hear the positive from all of this.
You know how many drownings there are every year, but you don't know how many have been saved from drowning because of all the nonprofits and because of all the, you know, the Bodie Miller stories and things like that. You just don't know. So it's really nice to hear from parents, hey, you know, your organization has impacted me, and I'm going to keep my child safer around the water because of you and because of Judah and, you know, because of Rory or because of you know, Kareem or whoever, that these children are being safer. So
yeah, we've said that a lot with the pool fences, right? There's, you know, there's no way to know, you know, which family got a pool fence and their kid didn't drown, you know. And it kind of, I mean, obviously I don't want to know who would have died, but it would be cool to have the numbers, you know. Because I think there has to be, right? I mean, there's no way you can install, you know, thousands of pool fences over 30 years, and there hasn't been someone who's, you know, grown up now even and has their own kids that wouldn't have made it otherwise, you know.
Many someone's, I think.
Yeah, which I think is a cool thing, you know. So what's your plan going forward? You know, what do you guys have in the, you know, plan for the future? What's your goal? What's the kind of dream vision if you had to have one?
So I think to be able to get our pamphlets into offices nationwide and to be able to see the AAP change their regulations and basically make it mandatory for pediatricians to talk to parents about water safety in their checkups, with the well checkups for the kids. We'd like to see that happen. Do you have other?
Just it being talked about by any healthcare professional, you know, whether it be a pediatrician or a dentist, not just, you know, in pediatricians' offices too.
Yes, preschools as well.
Yeah.
We could get into school. I would love to see, because Australia has this and we don't, where it's swimming lessons, they have it in the schools and it's government funded, so that there's no barrier between being able to learn to save yourself, being able to learn to swim. And because right now it's kind of the privilege of the wealthy or the, you know, semi-wealthy. It's very expensive, and I don't think it should be that way. So I would love to see the government understand how important it is and how it's more of a right than it should be more of a right than a privilege. And be able to subsidize that so that everyone can learn instead of just, you know, people who can afford it.
Because right now foundations are having to raise so much funding to provide lessons for children. And as we all know, this is the last layer of protection, right? So it's it's just so crucial, that children have these lessons, and the lessons that make a difference, swim, float, swim, not just lessons, some lessons.
Yeah, Melissa Sutton, who's the president of the NDPA, the National Drowning Prevention Alliance, she just got back from a tour in Australia. She was there, I think, almost a month, and maybe not. I might be wrong about that. She's probably going to kill me, but she was really impressed with kind of the water safety infrastructure that they had going on there. She talked about the Royal Life Saving Society and how they've been around for over 100 years. They've been doing this a long, long time, and it's part of the government. And we don't have any kind of equivalent like that here.
No, we need one. And I think that is going to be crucial to getting this nationwide and to getting all of this like a nationwide structure is to get a government agency that does focus on water safety.
Have you spoken to the American Academy of Pediatrics yet?
We're in the process of trying to get in contact with them. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in the process. Her husband's from Australia.
I do not.
Yeah, he's Australian.
Very cool. And what is, does he, how long has he been here? He's been here about 6 years. Okay, so pretty recent. So what is his opinion on the difference between water safety in Australia and here?
Oh, he was shocked at how little it happens here and how little structure we have around it here. He was absolutely shocked and appalled.
Really?
By yeah, because he said it's so much different there. Every child learns how to swim, if not private lessons, then they learn in school. And they have water safety information all over the place in Australia. It's just not. It's a culture of you need to be safe around the water, and here is just not. So they're surrounded by water, and most of their population is around the water. They don't have a lot of population in the middle. So I mean, yeah, it's important for them, and it should be here.
Kate, who works with me, and I don't know if you've ever seen us do Jeopardy, but she does Jeopardy with me. She went to college in Australia, and she was a competitive swimmer in college in the States. So she was in the college in the US, did competitive swimming, did very well, won a lot, went to Australia, figured she'd do the same thing, and immediately figured out that she is good in America, but she is bottom of the rung in Australia, that she just isn't, up to the standards of what they consider a good swimmer. And, she's like, yeah, because they start at birth, like they swim their entire lives. She goes, I'm a really good swimmer for an American, and I am a crappy swimmer in Australia. So much so that she quit doing it. She's like, I can't keep up with these people. They're amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so even that alone, you can just tell that their, experience with the water is, so much deeper than we have here.
Yeah. Well, if there's a child swimming alone in the pool in Australia and they're not with a parent, they could be fined.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very different here in the States. Very, very different. Very relaxed here in the States.
I know they have a national pool fence law that every pool has to have a fence. I might not like what kind of fence that is, but it's still a fence. It's better than nothing. Yeah, absolutely. So, do you guys have any events coming up, or?
We have quite a bit going on. It's day to day. People will call us and say, "Can you come?" So it's one of those things where every day is something different.
We have a garage sale coming up. We're trying to raise money so that we can provide more pamphlets to people. We got an influx of requests for pamphlets with the article that came out on the Today Show, and so we're working on that right now. And we also have a meeting where we're going to be training nurse practitioners for Kelsey Siebold group soon. So that's in September as well. Yeah, and so.
We're planning a run next year.
Yeah, we're looking at planning a first annual Jude Brown Project fun run.
She loves to run. She's a runner. So that's been one of our goals, is to plan a run.
And we expect to be in schools this year. We were in 2 schools last year doing in our local school district, doing our our trainings every day. So we reached 1,600 kids.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Last year.
1,600 students just in
2 schools.
2 schools.
Wow.
And this year we've been invited into more schools, and we've been invited to another school district in the area. So we'll be busy doing those trainings as well.
And we're about to meet with counselors from all different school districts in Texas to speak to different schools as well. So.
That's really cool. I haven't actually seen your Today Show interview. How did that happen?
It's on Today's Parents.
Okay.
And then Today's Show has shared it, and Hoda and Kathy Lee. And then it kind of just went from there.
It was an article. It was interesting. Yeah. I was on a Facebook page talking about some water safety with someone, and it happened to be a contributor to the Today Show, and also a contributor to a few other places like Huffington Post. And she just said, I want to tell your story, but it's too much for my venue. So let me talk to my editor. And so she did. She spoke with her editor and got back with me and asked me to write a story for them. And then they ended up putting it on their Today Show. So yeah, I
actually did read that then. Okay, I thought maybe it was a TV thing, but no, I read the article. It's really good.
Yeah, it's Houston Chronicle has really platformed our foundation. It's all been such a God thing. All these media sources have all reached out to us. We haven't reached out to any of them, so it's been such a blessing. And since then, it's just been amazing. Yeah. We get calls all the time. Can you do an interview? Sure. It's different, because we're just so